Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The wooden door splintered inward with a violence that shook the dust from the rafters, drowning out the roar of the thunderstorm outside. Valerius did not flinch. He sat in his high-backed armchair, a book resting forgotten on his knee, and watched the lightning illuminate the intruder's silhouette. 7 years. It had been 7 years since he had sent the boy away to the northern border, a mercy disguised as a punishment. Valerius expected an assassin. The emperor had been hunting him since the fall of House Vane, picking off the remnants of the old aristocracy one by one. But the man standing in the threshold, water dripping from a heavy fur cloak onto the rotting floorboards, was no assassin. He was a calamity. He was a war god carved from the memories of a weeping child. I told you. The intruder's voice was a low rumble, vibrating through the damp air of the cottage, that I would find you. Valerius closed his book with a soft snap, his fingers trembling imperceptibly. You were ordered never to return, General Kalen. General, Kalen repeated, stepping into the firelight. He was massive. The scrawny, teary-eyed boy who used to hide behind Valerius's robes had grown into a wall of muscle and scar tissue. His black hair was slicked back from rain, and his eyes, those unnatural, violet eyes that had once terrified the superstitious maids, burned with a possessive hunger that made Valerius's breath hitch. Is that what I am to you now? A rank. It is what you earned, Valerius replied, his voice cool, masking the frantic beating of his heart. You should not be here. If the Imperial Guard finds the Wolf of the North consorting with an exiled traitor, let them come. Kalen crossed the room in 2 long strides, invading Valerius's personal space. The scent of ozone, rain, and iron overwhelmed the smell of old paper. He placed a hand on the armrest of the chair, leaning down until his face was inches from Valerius's. I burned 3 cities to pave the road back to you, Valerius. Do you think I care about a guard patrol? Valerius looked up, trying to summon the icy authority that had once made him the Grand Duke of the realm. But looking at Kalen now, all he could see was the ghost of the child who had clung to his leg, sobbing, begging not to be sent away. You have grown arrogant, pup, Valerius whispered. Kalen's lips curled into a smirk that was equal parts terrifying and boyishly charming. And you have grown thin. His gaze dropped to Valerius's neck, lingering on the pulse point. Get up. We're leaving. I am under house arrest. My life is forfeit if I leave these grounds. Your life was forfeit the moment you saved mine, Kalen growled, his hand moving to grip Valerius's chin, tilting his head back. Now, you belong to me. The carriage ride was a blur of shadows and speed. Kalen had not brought an army, only a small elite unit of the Northern Cavalry, men who looked at their commander with fanatical devotion and at Valerius with veiled curiosity. They rode through the night, putting miles between the dilapidated cottage and the capital's reach. Inside the carriage, the air was thick with unspoken words. Valerius sat opposite Kalen, wrapping his thin cloak tighter around himself. The years of exile had been unkind. The political purge had stripped him of his title, his wealth, and his health. He was a shadow of the man who had once ruled the court from the shadows. Kalen, conversely, radiated vitality. He watched Valerius with the intensity of a predator, his legs spread wide, occupying most of the cabin's space. Stop staring, Valerius murmured, looking out the window at the passing treeline. I haven't seen you in 2,555 days, Kalen recited instantly. I have a lot of time to make up for. Valerius stiffened. I sent you away to save you, Kalen. The Emperor was purging anyone with magic. You were a street rat with uncontrolled power. If you had stayed in my manor, you would have been executed alongside my staff. I know, Kalen said, his voice dropping an octave. I knew it then, even when I was screaming at you. Even when I wrapped my arms around your leg, and you had the guards pry me off. Valerius flinched at the memory. It was the single most painful moment of his life, prying the only person he had ever loved off of him, shattering the boy's heart to save his life. Then why are you looking at me with such hatred? Kalen leaned forward, bracing his elbows on his knees. It isn't hatred, Valerius. It's hunger. You sent me into the hell of the north. You made me a killer. You made me a monster so I could survive. And the only thing that kept me sane while I waded through blood was the promise that one day I would be strong enough that no one, not the Emperor, not the gods, and certainly not you, could ever send me away again. The carriage hit a rut, jolting them. Valerius stumbled forward, and Kalen caught him instantly. His hands were large, calloused, and hot against Valerius's cold skin. He didn't let go. He pulled Valerius from his seat, depositing him onto his own lap with shocking ease. Kalen, Valerius gasped, struggling against the iron grip. I am not one of your camp whores. Unhand me. You are right, Kalen murmured, burying his nose into the crook of Valerius's neck, inhaling deeply. You are my master, my savior, my duke. He bit lightly at the sensitive skin above the collarbone. But you are also weaker than me now. You're cold. You're tired. Valerius stopped struggling, his energy sapped. It was humiliating, yet confusingly comforting. The heat radiating from Kalen was intoxicating after years of freezing in that drafty cottage. This is treason, Valerius whispered weakly. This is destiny, Kalen corrected, tightening his arms around Valerius's waist. Sleep. When you wake up, you'll be home. Home was not the capital. It was the obsidian fortress, perched on the cliffs of the northern coast. It was a structure of black stone and jagged spires, impenetrable and imposing. Valerius awoke in a bed that was larger than his entire cottage living room. The sheets were black silk, cool to the touch. The room was illuminated by a roaring fireplace. He sat up, wincing as his stiff joints protested. He was wearing a nightshirt of fine linen. Someone had changed him while he slept. A flush of heat crept up his neck at the thought. The heavy oak doors creaked open, and Kalen entered. He was dressed less formally now, in loose trousers and a white shirt left unbuttoned halfway down his chest, revealing the hard lines of his torso and a jagged scar running from his shoulder to his sternum. He carried a silver tray. Eat, Kalen commanded gently, setting the tray on the bedside table. It was laden with roasted fowl, fresh fruit, and wine, luxuries Valerius hadn't tasted in years. Valerius looked at the food, then at Kalen. Why are you doing this? You have me prisoner. A prisoner who can leave the room whenever he wishes, Kalen said, sitting on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped under his weight. Explore the castle. Go to the library. The only place you cannot go is outside the walls. The Emperor's spies are everywhere. So, I am a bird in a gilded cage. Kalen reached out, his fingers brushing a stray lock of silver hair from Valerius's forehead. His touch was tender, contrasting sharply with the violence of his reputation. Better a gilded cage with me than a shallow grave alone. Valerius slapped the hand away. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Do not patronize me. I raised you. I taught you how to hold a spoon, how to read, how to control your magic. Do not treat me like a fragile ornament. Kalen's eyes darkened. For a second, the wolf surfaced. He grabbed Valerius's wrist, pinning it to the mattress. He leaned over, his bulk eclipsing the light from the fire. You raised a boy, Valerius. That boy is dead. I killed him so I could become the man who could protect you. You want to be treated like an equal? Then stop acting like a martyr. I am not a martyr. Valerius hissed, though his heart hammered against his ribs. I am a man who lost everything to ensure you had a future, and you have it. Kalen roared back, the veneer of calm cracking. I am your future. Why can't you see that? Everything I conquered, every title I took, every coin I stole, it was for you. I built this fortress for you. The revelation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Valerius stared up at him, wide-eyed. You did all this. For me. Kalen's expression crumpled, the anger draining away to reveal a desperate vulnerability. He slowly released Valerius's wrist and lowered his forehead to rest on Valerius's chest. The mighty general, the scourge of the north, curled inward. I missed you, Kalen whispered, his voice cracking. Every day? I hated you for sending me away, but I missed you so much it felt like my chest was being ripped open. I just wanted to be strong enough to come back. To be the one protecting you this time. Valerius felt the sting of tears in his own eyes. He hesitated, then slowly raised his hand, threading his fingers through Kalen's thick, dark hair. You foolish child, he murmured softly. Not a child. Kalen mumbled into the fabric of Valerius's shirt, his arms wrapping around Valerius's waist, clinging tight, just like he used to. Your man. Valerius sighed, the tension of 7 years finally beginning to unravel. My man, he conceded softly. The peace, however, was short-lived. 3 weeks later, the alarm bells of the Obsidian Fortress rang. The Emperor had not sent a patrol, he had sent the Imperial Legion. The traitor Duke and the rogue general were too dangerous to be left alive. Valerius stood on the battlements, the wind whipping his hair. Below, the valley was filled with the banners of the Empire, the very empire he had served faithfully for decades. Kalen appeared beside him, fully armored in black steel, a greatsword strapped to his back. He looked magnificent and terrifying. Go back inside, Kalen ordered, his eyes fixed on the enemy lines. I can fight, Valerius said. I may be drained, but I still know strategy. I know the commander down there. General Marcus. He is aggressive but predictable. Kalen turned to him, capturing Valerius's face in his gauntlet hands. I know you can fight, but you don't have to. Not anymore. He leaned down, pressing a hard, searing kiss to Valerius's lips. It was a kiss of promise, of ownership, and of goodbye. Kalen, watch me, Kalen said, pulling away, his violet eyes glowing with arcane energy. Watch what I became for you. Valerius watched from the high tower as the gates opened. Kalen rode out alone. It seemed like suicide. But then, the magic erupted. It wasn't the disciplined spell work Valerius had taught him. It was raw, primal chaos. Shadow and lightning coalesced around Kalen, forming the shape of a massive, spectral wolf. He tore through the Imperial lines like a scythe through wheat. It was a massacre. It was awe-inspiring. It was horrifying. Valerius gripped the cold stone of the parapet, his knuckles white. He realized then the extent of Kalen's sacrifice. To gain this power, to control this level of dark magic without losing his mind, Kalen must have endured torture. He had broken his own soul and pieced it back together with nothing but his obsession with Valerius as the glue. By sunset, the valley was silent. The Imperial Legion had retreated, their morale shattered by the one-man army. Kalen returned to the fortress on foot, covered in blood that was not his own. The soldiers of the fortress cheered, chanting his name, but he ignored them. He walked straight to the main keep, up the winding stairs, to the room where Valerius waited. He shoved the door open and collapsed. Valerius caught him before he hit the floor. The armor was heavy, dragging them both down to the rug. Kalen was trembling violently, the adrenaline crash hitting him hard. Did you see? Kalen rasped, his eyes unfocused, his hands grasping blindly for Valerius. I didn't let them touch you. I didn't let them take you. I saw. Valerius whispered, tears streaming down his face. He frantically began unbuckling Kalen's armor, tossing the bloodied plates aside. I saw, Kalen. You fool. You brilliant, stupid fool. Once the armor was off, Kalen slumped against Valerius, burying his face in Valerius's neck. He was clinging again. The dominant warlord was gone, replaced by the boy who needed reassurance that he was good, that he was loved. Don't leave me, Kalen mumbled, his consciousness fading. Don't send me away. Never, Valerius vowed, pulling the heavy body closer, rocking him gently. You are the master of this house now, Kalen. You are the one holding the keys. I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. Kalen let out a huff of laughter against Valerius's skin. Good. Because I broke the lock. The recovery was slow. For days, Kalen burned with a magical fever, his body purging the excess energy he had drawn upon. Valerius did not leave his side. He bathed him, fed him cool broth, and whispered old stories to him when the nightmares came. It shifted something between them. The power dynamic, which had swung so violently from guardian/ward to captor/captive, finally settled into equilibrium. On the 7th night, Kalen's fever broke. Valerius was dozing in the chair beside the bed when he felt a hand on his knee. He opened his eyes to see Kalen watching him, lucid and calm. Come here, Kalen said softly. Valerius didn't argue. He climbed into the bed, lying beside the younger man. Kalen immediately shifted, pulling Valerius against him, wrapping his limbs around him like an octopus. He rested his chin on top of Valerius's head. You stayed, Kalen observed. I had nowhere else to go. Liar. Kalen squeezed him tight. You could have stolen a horse while I was feverish. You stayed because you love me. Valerius remained silent for a long time, listening to the steady beat of Kalen's heart. I loved the boy who needed me, he admitted quietly. I am learning to love the man who doesn't. Kalen shifted so he could look Valerius in the eye. His expression was serious, the violet irises dark with intent. I will always need you, Valerius. The world sees a monster, a general, a tyrant. But without you, I am just a weapon without a wielder. You ground me. You are my conscience. He took Valerius's hand and kissed the palm, his eyes never leaving Valerius's. But make no mistake, I am not the boy who begged for scraps of your affection. I am a man who takes what he wants. And I want all of you. Your past, your future, your body, your loyalty. I want to be the only thing you see. Valerius felt a shiver run down his spine, not of fear, but of surrender. He had spent his life navigating the treacherous waters of court politics, always in control, always the stoic guardian. To let go, to let someone else hold the weight of the world and the weight of his heart. It was a freedom he hadn't known he craved. You are possessive, Valerius noted. I am thorough, Kalen corrected. He moved over Valerius, his body looming large, casting a shadow that felt like a sanctuary. Say it. Say you're mine. Valerius reached up, tracing the scar on Kalen's chest, the price of his power. I am yours, Kalen. I think. I always was. Kalen smiled, a true, brilliant smile that reached his eyes, erasing the years of war and pain. He leaned down, capturing Valerius's lips in a kiss that was slow, deep, and utterly devastating. It wasn't the kiss of a child seeking comfort, nor the kiss of a conqueror claiming a prize. It was the kiss of a soulmate finding his other half after a lifetime of searching. As the storm raged outside the obsidian fortress, inside the black silk sheets, the viper finally stopped running, and the wolf finally found his home. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf, by letting himself be caught. If you enjoyed seeing Kalen take absolute control while still needing his master's touch, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who conquered the world just to lock you away for your own safety? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then.